Hey guys, it's time for me to talk about my top 3 shows of the week, and third place goes to Rain. And this week's episode was all about Catherine and how she was going to try to get her way out of being beheaded by her husband. And she spent a lot of this episode trying to come up with plan after plan. And when every single one was failing miserably around her, at the end of it, she just decided to take poison and try to kill Mary and herself, because at least she knew that if she was going to die, then she was going to take Mary down with her. And in doing so, it would ensure that her sons would still have be in line to be the king once King Henry would die, as well as that she would not be able to marry Francis, and that her son would live for, as long as he could. Lots of things went down in this episode, and it was really, really good. So that is why it is my number 3 show of the week. Number 2 goes to Arrow, and Arrow again was on fire. We had the huge reveal that Sarah is alive. Now Laurel and her mom know that Sarah is alive, and they don't know where she's been these last 6 weeks. All they know is that she is alive. And the reunion for Laurel didn't really go very well. She's very upset with her sister, obviously, for the fact that she went away with her boyfriend Oliver all those years ago on that ship. And when it actually crashed, she realized that her not only love of her life had had died, or she thought he had died, but that he also betrayed her with her best friend and sister. So yikes, that was bad. We also found out that Moira is, of course, going ahead with the running for mayor, but that she is not backing down, and she even, it looks like, put out like a hit on her OBGYN to silence her for telling anybody that Thea is actually the daughter of Malcolm Merlyn. And Felicity found this out, and of course she went to Moira with what she knows, and then ultimately ended up telling Oliver, and now Oliver knows the truth about his mom, and he has written her off and doesn't want anything to do with her. So that was a crazy twist right there. And then, of course, we had the ending moment between Oliver and Sarah. But before that, we also had some really amazing fight scenes throughout this entire episode. And we saw Nisa, who is the daughter of Ra's al Ghul, and just what that threat of the League of Assassins could possibly bring to Starling City. So again, we had that awesome scene at the end between Oliver and Sarah, and the two of them connecting and kissing, which was obviously because I think they had all this pent up emotion in terms of all the things that have been going on, everything that's happened over the last 6 years, the fact that Oliver just found out the truth about his mom, and Sarah has been pushed away by Laurel. So they were pretty much it was a sad connection, but it was a connection nonetheless. So that makes Arrow my number 2 show of the week, and it was really, really, really good. My number 1 show of the week went to The Originals. Guys, this show is really, really doing well. And in this week's episode, we had the resurrection of Monique. And if you've been watching the show, you know that she had died in the harvest. And when they killed Papatunde at the end of last week's episode, when he sacrificed himself to Celeste, one of the 4 witches that were killed in the harvest came back, and that was Monique. And she was the niece of Sophie Devereaux. And Sophie has been trying for a very long time to do whatever she could to get her niece back, and in this episode it happened. And what was supposed to be a great reunion turned into a very, very tragic ending. Not only did Monique kill her aunt, she is off with the other 3 witches, and they're about to go and wreak havoc in New Orleans, and it's pretty awesome. We also found out that Haley, sorry about that, that we also found out that Haley is betrothed to another werewolf. And this episode, it was a full moon, so she was able to have all of her family members that have been put on with the curse that they only turn on a full moon, they turn into humans. And there has been a werewolf that has been protecting her these last few episodes, and we found out who that was. And his name is Jackson. And all these years ago, his family and her family had made this pact that they were going to have their kids be promised to one another, and that they make their bloodline stronger by be married and then obviously having children together. So Haley has found this out now, that she has a guy out there named Jackson who has been promised to her all these years ago. Meanwhile, she has ridiculous feelings for Elijah, and Elijah also has crazy feelings for her. So this clearly throws a monkey wrench into that situation. We also had some really great moments with Elijah finding out that Celeste was actually in Sabine's body, and he confronted her, and they had some really great moments where Sabine / Celeste made him choose between Rebecca, Klaus, and Haley, and she had basically had something done to all three of them, and he had to make a choice, and he chose Haley. So that was obviously a very powerful moment there. Yeah, Celeste is definitely got a big plan ahead of her, and it'll be interesting, obviously, in the coming weeks to see how that all plays out. But these witches mean business, and obviously these werewolves are trying to get back this, their pact, so that they can take over and not be under control by the witches as well as the vampires. And of course, Klaus was up to his own agenda sort of in this episode, so he's now been stabbed with this knife, and he's somewhere kidnapped by these witches, and Rebecca was also attacked by the werewolves. And should be very interesting to see what happens when the show returns. This show is really doing a good job of making it its own series, not tying itself to the Vampire Diaries really in any way. They've got a lot of rich history that they can pull from, that they don't need to try to manipulate viewers and pull them over or tie anything into what's happening over on the Vampire Diaries. So this week's episode of the originals was definitely a home run, and I can't wait to see what happens when all of these CW shows return after the Olympics. So those are my top 3 shows. Let me know what your top 3 shows were of the week, and I look forward to seeing you guys next week when I do my reviews on whatever's on this week, because I still think there are a few shows on because the Olympics is going on, but it's not the end of all TV watching, thank God. All right, guys, I'll see you guys next week. Bye.